So this video is going to be a whole lot different compared to normal content, but it's just something I want to get out there. For the longest time, I wanted to, and I mean really wanted to race. And I think there's going to be other people out there like me as well, because racing vehicles, especially cars, motorbikes are a little bit easier to get into, and I used to do those back when I was younger, so we'll talk about that soon. But I just feel like there's a lot of people out there that have been in the same position as me, and like I said, it's just something I wanted to get out there. So I'm just going to take a seat in this video with the sim in the background. Hopefully it looks pretty cool, and if the lighting's terrible I might have to make some correction to it later. But let's go back to the start and ramble, I guess, a bit about how I'm going to set out to try and do this, because I might not ever get there, but I've got a bit of a dream to get in the car, or get in a car on a circuit and wait for the lights to go green. It's something that I picture a lot, like a lot of the time, probably every day, to be honest, especially on the way home from work and stuff like that. So like I said, let's go back to the start. This might be a video that's best listened to in the background, but if you want to watch the whole thing, then that's cool as well. Okay, so growing up at the age of 7 and my little brother was 4. We're all 3 years apart. I have a younger sister as well. I remember for Christmas one year we got a Pee-wee 50 motorcycle. So we never had a whole lot of whole lot of money in our family. Actually, to be honest, my parents are pretty terrible with it, and it's something that I've learned a lot of looking back upon it. So I mean, I guess there's a positive out of there. Whereas if your family's bad with money as well, you can see what's wrong with being bad with it, what it can cause, and learn from it. But anyway, moving on, we got a Pee-wee 50 for Christmas, between me and my brother, really. My sister as well, for when she grows up, because my dad actually used to race these things called sidecars. They're quite popular in Australia. I don't know if they're big overseas anywhere, maybe Europe as well. Speedway's pretty big in. But he used to race those things, so I had a background with dirt motorcycle speedway, and the journey started there. So 7 years old, had the Pee-wee 50, started off riding that, and then upgraded to juniors when I was about 12, I would say, or maybe even a bit younger, 11 or 12. Carried through with them, did some big races, travelled to Victoria, different states. We were in like all around Victoria to Sydney, as far as Sydney. And it was cool fun. It was something that, if I look back, it was a bit too aggressive for my personality. And what I mean by that is, there's 4 of you, you're lined up on the start line, everyone's edging, ready to go. You look to the side to watch the beam because the rope can be delayed because the sides pull it up. It's pretty tight, but still. And everyone is pointed towards the one position, which is the inside of the first corner. So you've got guy on the inside. If here's the start line, the inside guy's pointed slightly out because he wants to try and cut everyone off. The outside guy's pointed in, and the 2 center ones are there in the middle. So especially in juniors, it gets a bit, just in any of the classes, juniors up to the adult ones, gets a bit rough. Like, there's times where you're coming in and you know that when you flick the back wheel out, it's going to be into someone, and you're knocking bodies, like physically knocking bodies into the first corner, hoping to stay on, and a lot of the time that's not the case.
Get the drive around the outside, but Pedersen hangs on. Pedersen has the lead. Look at Dahl and Sagan! Oh! Big crash! Big crash down the back straight going into turn 3.
No, Jonas! Oj, 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 så det är Niklas! Oj, oj, oj! Aj. Ja, nu får det vara slut på de här incidenterna.
Jonasson tar ju starten där och går in där, men Scott ska armbåga sig förbi där och... Jag hoppas för Guds skull att inte någon...
And I remember that at the start line of these motorbike races, I would even delay letting go because I didn't want to be I didn't want to get caught up in this aggressive carnage that could unfold. because I didn't have that aggressive, you know, brute instinct in me, not on a motorcycle anyway. And kept going on until as you get a bit older, you mature a bit more and can handle a bit more things like that. But I quit when I turned 18 because it came to the time to continue on with my schooling, and there was no universities or colleges in America, you'd call them, where I could study in my local town. So I had to travel interstate, had to move out at 18, and I was given the choice actually to if I was going to carry on with the motorcycle racing. So it's big in Europe, and because the community is pretty tight, you kind of know everyone, I was actually offered to, out of my own pocket, to fly over to Europe, and from there a guy would organise me sessions to ride around and show any talent that I have at the end of these big events that they do over in Europe, and attempt to be scouted and try and do it professionally. But I knew some guys that did do it professionally, and it wasn't the most lucrative of jobs, which isn't the main thing. If you race motorcycles for a living and love it, that's awesome. Like, who would want anything else? But very stressful. 4 nights of the week you have to be racing, so a lot of the time it's like Monday, travel, wash your stuff, like, you know, in hotel rooms and different car washes where you can get to, and then you do it all again Tuesday night, and then Wednesday, and then you might have a day off, and then Friday it's back on. So it's a very full-on job, and the risk is pretty through the roof. I mean, if you come off and hurt your leg, you've got nothing around you, you're just sitting on this piece of metal chassis with an engine in it, with no brakes, mind you. So, you know, and if you come off, then the life can get a bit tough, I guess, because then you've got no income, like, at all. Unless you're a big timer, unless you're like the Lewis Hamilton of motorcycles, then chances are you're going to be chasing, the bills a lot of the time. But if deep down I knew that's what I wanted to do, I would have taken it up straight away. But I didn't do that. I come to university in the attempt to have a bit more of a sound, safe kind of bet, get the job, and then I can look at doing it on the side if I really want to. And thing is, that didn't really happen. So eventually the motorcycles were sold. As I grew up, my keenness for it, or the truth in my, you know, what I really feel towards it come through, and I decided not to carry on with it when I could make the decision for myself when I was 18. What I did develop was a real love for cars, and like obsession with cars, and it's only getting more and more. So I'm 25 now. So since the age of 20, I got invited to a corporate box at a local big race meeting, street circuit in my local town, and it's the first time I'd seen racing cars. So the engines, when everyone's holding it flat, there's 30 something cars on the grid waiting for the countdown. At any stage you could go green. It's just the noise and the crowds, how big it is, how it has the potential to shut down a whole city. And people whinge that they can't get to work on time because certain roads are taken up, and really caught my interest. Then times passed, you know, started downloading some racing games because just inspired me to play some video games on the computer. So as you can see now, I have a simulator rig. If you've been following the channel, you would have seen that. I make content on it. But I started off with just the keyboard, and Project Cars 2 was the first game that I didn't even purchase it because, you know, money. I was in uni and then stopped, and then was working at a grocery store part-time, stacking the shelves. So I pirated Project Cars 2, I'll put that out there. These days I purchase all my games because I like the online aspect and I like to support the developers, but that was how it was at the time. And then, yeah, I kept playing it on the side, but I didn't really think anything of it. I would play my shooting games, Call of Duty, and maybe some World of Warcraft, but also on the side I was working on my career and versing the computer in Project Cars 2. And other games, I downloaded Dirt Rally, wanted to play Rallycross, caught my attention, I'd watch that on the internet. Because Rallycross is brutal, man. They're like half dirt, half road, they've got jumps. one of the most full-on forms of racing there is, and I think it deserves a bit more attention than it gets, but that's another topic. Then I actually organised it. I went to a go-kart track nearby. You know, we just hire fun go-karts. They're not very fast or anything, but I got a group of friends. Put the helmet on, I was all excited, you know, nice fun day out with a group of friends. Then we were going for a movie afterwards. Put the helmet on and I went out in this little shonky go-kart with hardly any rubber left on the tyres, and then started going. And then within a lap, I kind of realised that I was in this tunnel vision almost. And I want to call it race mode. So when the helmet on, I went out, I was only out there for about 20 seconds, and I realised I had zoned in so hard on the task at hand that I had to take a step back. While I was still out in track, mind you, just doing laps. And like I said, they're not fast. But there's something like so instinctive about just zoning in. Nothing else mattered. It was tunnel vision. I just wanted to hit the line properly, and I wanted to just lap and get faster and faster, the fastest I could. And to spoil the story that I could build up, I ended up getting 4th highest on the leaderboard. They do every month. They do a top 10. Now, mind you, it's just a local little club, and there's like 3 or 4 tracks around here, but end up getting a pretty good rating up there, which is a cool part of the story as well. But the focus here is that I went into this this race mode, we'll call it, and I missed it. Straight away I missed it, because it'd been 5 or 6 years since I'd been on a motorcycle on a racetrack with that instinct. And I knew right then on that day that I have to do this. And I think I said it to myself, like, this is what, like, I gotta race. I miss racing so much. So all of a sudden now looking back, the pieces are starting to fall, where things are starting to line up for racing. I have this like passion, and if I look back, I used to because I grew up with motorbikes and everything, I used to like my drawing, and I'd get a old torch and I'd sit my piece of paper on top with my piece of paper on top and then a picture underneath, and the light would shine through and I could trace out pictures of motorbikes, and sometimes I'd try to freehand them. But more often than not, what I can remember drawing the most and wanting to draw the most is cars. And it all come together like last year, and I started realizing stuff like this. Like, I used to draw a lot of cars. And we had this model like old Ferrari up in the glass cupboard at home, and I used to fancy that a lot and think it was really cool, but I'd never be allowed to touch it because it was a bit, expensive die-cast model, and you're not allowed to play with it at home anyway. That's just another little point that kind of adds in to the puzzle. And fast forward, these days, I am so into it. The more I learn about cars and the amount of small details to it, and how like 1/10 of a second can make or break laps, and it just gets full on. So the rig's been updated. We take iRacing pretty full on. Not super good yet, but trying to learn and get better at it and do full seasons of racing. I've done a few tournaments online, and now comes to the point where how am I going to pull off getting into a physical car, because it's what I want to really do. Oh, and one of my other big goals that I had was to buy a sports car and have the freedom of kind of modifying it up and doing that. And fortunately enough, after quitting work after all the jobs that I've had, and always having the mindset of save, and then going into a personal trainer, and then developing that business up or trying to grow it, finally pulled it off. And we have actually straight underneath us here, a 335i BMW, which is, if you know anything about those, they're really easy to modify, and it's super good. Like, I just love driving it every day. And my brother has a 600 horsepower Ford Falcon with a big Barrett engine, if you know them. They're Australian made as well, or were. So we have the cars, and we've been to a track day, and it's just something that I have to do. So the steps of how we're going to do it, or how I said we, because we're going to go halves and halves in it, because it'll make it a bit easier, because that's the biggest barrier of why I haven't even started racing now. This is the financial aspect of it. I'm sure you're well aware of it too. If you clicked on this video, you probably want to get in a race car as well. So I'm going to lay out the steps of what I have in mind. And like I said, I might not ever get there, but I have this goal, I have this dream that I want to at least be able to do race seasons and have our own race car, even if it's an old shitbox. Do you know, like, the objective here isn't to try and go pro at 25. Chances are that boat's, you know, sailed off anyway, because a lot of these kids start off young, and then, like, what's Max Verstappen? 19, he's in a Formula 1 car, so that's incredible. But I just know that I have to race a car. I like that shell around me. I just miss racing as a whole, and then my passion for cars, they just go perfectly together. And I think that's why race cars are so big worldwide. Anyway, how are we going to do it? Step one is any cash work that I do, personal training, goes into like a drawer, and I just pretend that I never had it. And slowly that's going to save up. But that's only like $100 a week, $150 a week. So it comes down to two different categories of what to start with. The most entry-level categories. We have the small little front-wheel drive cars, Honda XLs. They're very plentiful in this country of Australia. I think they're worldwide. They've sold so many of them. But the other one is Formula Vs. And I went to the most local racetrack, big first event opener for the V8 supercars again the other week, and talked to some Formula V guys about how to get in. So the cheap level cars, these Formula Vs and the XLs, are about the same price. You're looking at about $6,000 to $10,000 to own your own one, ready to go and race. Which isn't too bad, it comes roll cage and everything, but it still is a big ask. Like, if you don't have money to throw, like, it's a hard thing to do. So what I've decided is I'm gonna go half of my brother, like every second event I'll drive and he'll drive, and then I'll pit when he's driving and he'll pit when I'm driving. So that's the first thing. We know our target and how to get there. Meanwhile, what can we do while we're trying to wait for that thing to happen, or to be in that position? And the biggest help that can happen, and does happen with a lot of different racing cars, which you're well aware of probably by seeing the liveries, is sponsorship. But sponsorship's hard to pull off unless you have something to offer, and if we don't have a race car, how do you really offer it? But what I'm going to do, and I've written down, I've done my research, I was up to 4 AM last night because I get really excited and can't sleep with this stuff. But researching sponsorship packs and things to make sure it has an order to put it in. So it's like event proposal sponsorship pack, and I'm sure you can type this in Google yourself. And they'll lay out, like, you know, start with a story, tell them about yourself, what you can offer, promises. So, like, not like you're going to get this much business, but I'm going to promote at this event, and it's, you know, do your research. Like, this is how much people normally attend, and what can you offer? And you don't ask for a heap, but, you know, for a full season, and trying to get someone to back you, you want to have a good offer. And it's expensive to race cars, but a lot of people want to ask for money. So I think an even better thing to go for is, what do you think you'd spend most of your money on? Oils, fuel, tires, travel costs. So what you can do is, what I'm going to try and do in the sponsorship proposal pack, I'm going to find out who the person is that I want to send it to. So find a business that I'd like to work with that has something that I would find useful, and they would probably get some benefit of having their name on the car somewhere, or mentioned, or on your social media, or whatever it is. Because you're not just getting into a race car, you're almost like building a brand, really. And so fuels and things like that. So go to them and be like, you know, if you cover the entry costs, you have this branding rights on the car, and other things that, like, if you were a company owner, and this is the way you think about it, if you were a company owner, you owned Coca-Cola or something a bit more small, you had a printing shop in town, what would you want in return for paying your name to be on stuff? So they might want to come out as a passenger track day or something like that. So that's pretty much it. See what you can offer, And in the meantime, that's probably the best thing you can do while you're saving for your own car, so you have something to offer, which is the car to have the branding put on it. Put the time and effort into the sponsorship pack, because it takes a time to make something that's really appealing and done well. So why wait? Why not do it now while you're still saving? And the third and final thing, and that I've been working on because it's also kind of fun, is learning all the tracks that you can on a racing sim, because this is the closest thing you can do in the meantime before you get in a physical car. That was a bit of a story. Hopefully gave you some kind of understanding of where I'm coming from, and maybe you're following the same steps as well, and it inspired you to also follow your dream and get in a race car. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you next time.